IF36 am a funeral director. This story is about a fellow industry professional and only mentions deceased people in passing and with no details. Also, this is a long one. Some context about what brought us to this event. About 15 years ago, JAM 70, a fellow funeral director, retired from the funeral home I work at. I've only known him for a handful of years, but I've been told that his charming personality is a long-standing thing. He knows everything, he's condescending, and he's massively entitled. I'm not entirely certain why my bosses tolerate him, but I think it has to do with family business dynamics, and small-town politics. JA is not related to my bosses, but he worked with the previous generation until retirement and thus has a long association with the family I work for. I've had to have words with JA before about his conduct in the funeral home. He's not around terribly often, but when he is, he treats the place like he still works there, and then acts all pissy with me when I refuse to accommodate him unless it doesn't inconvenience me in the course of my work. Let me give you my two favorite examples. A Saturday morning, and I am called to attend a death at a private residence. The deceased was a very large person, upstairs in bed, and we were in the middle of a heat wave. I tell you this so you have an inkling of how sweaty, tired, and sore I was when my colleague and I got the decedent back to the funeral home. We were in the middle of removing the stretcher from the van when the garage door opens. Behold, J.A., winning the worst timing awards. He wants to wash his midlife crisis car in our garage because we have all the detailing equipment and supplies. My colleague and I pause what we're doing and I explain, though I shouldn't have to, that it's not a great time. J.A. stands there, mere feet away from me, and I'm standing next to the deceased who is on the stretcher, which is halfway out of the van and being held onto by my colleague, and the man deadass asks me why, like he can't see we're in the middle of a transfer and it's not easy. He knows this job, he did it once upon a time too. His cheek pissed me off, so I replied because I said so, and we went back to what we were doing. He stood there and silently watched us for a while before he just walked away and left the garage door open. Next up, someone in JA's circle passed away and he was the executor of the estate, so he made the funeral arrangements. My genuine condolences to the man for losing someone he cares about, but he is still a jerk and he acted like an ass during the funeral to several people for no good reason. He told someone to their face that the flower arrangement they sent was ugly. I heard it cause I was chatting with the person behind them. After the funeral, JA schedules a meeting with one of my bosses to go over the notifications we do: government, IDs, pensions, banks, life insurances, etc. I was downstairs dressing a decedent when JA arrived. He waltzed right into the room I was in, bringing 3 members of the public with him while I have a half-dressed person on a table in front of me. For context, the ID room is off the garage and has 2 doors, one from inside the home and one from garage. Thankfully, the 3 others turned away immediately and I had a sheet I could throw over the person, but JA acted like it wasn't a big deal at all. It's a very big deal. We have pin padlocks on certain doors for a reason, including the one he entered from. I was irritated with him, so I called him on bringing public through private rooms without checking first. He tried to put it on me that I should have been doing that task in the prep room, where no one would be walking through. But since he doesn't work with us anymore, he didn't know that we were slammed with calls and that I didn't have space in the prep room. Instead of explaining that, I simply asked him which one of us actually works here. He gave me a dirty look and left with his people in a huff, but he still took them through the room first. Which brings us to our most recent butting of heads and my petty revenge. Yesterday was the last straw for me. It snowed most of the day and I was running in all directions with my staff. We were keeping on top of snow removal and salting, whilst simultaneously running a very busy visitation. I went though almost 200 cards in 4 hours of visiting, which includes keeping fresh coffee, tea, pop, and water available to all guests, cleaning up the dishes they create, bathrooms, coats, and just generally assisting them. It's a very hands-on job with a lot of social interaction. During all of this, my assistant, who is new and doesn't know JA yet, comes to me in a panic and says JA parked in front of one of the garage bays and wouldn't move his car when asked. His verbatim response when asked was, "No, that's all right there." 'Twas the straw that broke the camel's back, folks. I went off to find JA and demanded his keys. He asked me why, and I told him you know why. He gave me that fucking smirk of his and gave me his keys. We move cars for guests all the time, so he probably expected me to park it along the hedge or at most on the street behind the funeral home. I cannot even begin to describe the absolute pure, petty satisfaction I felt as I drove his car across town and parked it in his fucking driveway. I debated parking it at the grocery store farther away, but I was worried it would be considered theft or mischief, and yes, I know where he lives, small town. I had my assistant follow me there in the van that JA had blocked in with his car. When I handed JA his car keys, I'm pretty sure I grinned like an idiot. He should have been suspicious. I told my bosses right away, just in case they disagreed and made me go back and get it, but I have never seen my one boss laugh that hard. He put his head down and made a hee-hee sound I have never heard out of him before. The other laughed but said, "Now one of us is going to have to take him home." I shrugged, cause I knew it definitely wouldn't be me. JA did come find me an hour or so later with a red face that told me he'd been outside in the cold looking for it. I hope he walked the full block before he realized it wasn't on a street nearby. He demanded to know what I had done with his car, and I told him exactly where it was with a huge smile. I wish I could say he looked stunned, but I think by that point he knew I'd done something with it. He gave me a dirty look and then turned and walked away from me without saying a word. I don't know who drove him home, but it wasn't me, and it wasn't my bosses either. I wonder if he'll listen the next time he's told not to park in front of the garage doors.
Next story.
I have finally moved on. I had just finished my uni and got a job that got me posted in some Mashini town in 2022 August. Back in that town I met a dude currently 26 and was jobless at that time. This dude was good looking and he run a small business not his near where I worked. My job and his were symbiotic in nature, meaning we supported each other clients wise. Throughout my posting in that area I always felt out of place cause I am used to staying in Nairobi. He was the only person I could vibe with cause everyone else we couldn't relate. Since I was single at that time I decided to give it a shot. So one day I invite the guy to my place and guys, he got hooked. He literally just moved in with me. I couldn't chase him away cause I was enjoying broken heart face with tears of joy, and at least I had company. He used to complain a lot about how damned his life is, his business is not breaking even and doesn't get paid and all. I understood his broke situation and vowed to accept him as he is cause he seemed promising. In December 2022 I got transferred back to Nairobi and had to leave my guy back in the village town where I was working. So while in Nairobi I start job hunting for this MF. Long story short, by June he got a job, broke up with me and shut me out completely. Guys, it took me a while to recover cause as young soul I sacrificed a lot for this dude. Wasted my money, time, and energy. I lost myself, questioned my existence and all cause like this dude I hustled like a MF and do a paid IO job. I had already settled in mind Alafu Nakapagwe character Ilmbaya na Hata Si Nairobi ni village town like WTF. I lost all my house belongings and started life from scratch cause he caught me off guard and I couldn't get time to go move out properly. Mark you, I paid for rent the whole time. I just had to donate everything and boarded a mat back to Nairobi, so heartbroken. IHV finally moved on and been myself again. Since then I became so antisocial, haven't been in the dating scene since then. I know the street are dirty, but am positive I'll get a good soul out here, Mern.